Get started with Chris and Lynn. Chris Chandler is really well known throughout this community. He is the one that started LAUX, the Los Angeles User Experience Group, many moons ago. And now he is currently the senior director of UX at Fandango, and that's the leading online movie ticket retailer. Previously, you might already know, he worked at Walt Disney and led a UX team there. Quite a geographically diverse team. I think there were like 4 different locations, and they were also cross-functional. He's a strong proponent of lean and agile approaches, and if you know Chris, he's just a delight, and he's so approachable. Any questions you have, he's more than happy to answer them, and he'll tell you like it is, which is really refreshing and nice. We also have Lynn Boyden. Lynn is currently an information architect at USC, at University of Southern California, for the web services, and they design many sites there. So she leads the user experience team with research and design, content strategy, and site strategy for USC. And I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but she might be the only person who teaches both at USC and UCLA. So she also teaches at UCLA at the Library School, and just has been such a great proponent over there of UX and IA with really a hands-on approach that draws from a variety of disciplines to inform the practice of information architecture in the enterprise as well as the public sector. So please give a very warm welcome to Chris Chandler and Lynn Boyden.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everybody in the community. I guess this mic is on. Your mic is on?
My mic is on. My mic is on.
Welcome to the Lynn and Chris show. I remember 3 years ago when Jesse called us up, and we didn't know who Jesse was. Dan told her to call us, and we said, this sounds like a great idea. Let's get some students at UCLA to do all the work. So if you were one of those students, thank you for doing all the work for the first.
Those students were Alex Vinoska and Sam Bloomberg-Grisman and Tim Galati. I don't think any of them's here today, but they really did the good, hard, heavy lifting for the first World IA Day.
Last year we agreed to do a presentation during World IA Day, and this year we said we would MC. So this is our attempt at MCing. Do a little bit of a transition, talk a little bit about IA. I want to start off and say, the theme of today, and a very inspiring theme for us, I think, for this event was using IA to make the world a better place. This is something we believe in very strongly. To me, information architecture has always been fundamentally humanistic, and I don't mean there's no secular humanism in there. I mean more Renaissance humanism, just to be clear. And in fact, I thought I'd better throw up a little definition to get at what I'm talking about. That it's really about people, curiosity, a free mind, a belief in good taste. By the way, Lynn is responsible for good taste on the team for us, and a belief in the human race. Information architecture, the Polar Bear book, really comes from this sort of library science. That's one of the main streams of the whole UX discipline, and in particular information architecture. Lynn is actually a librarian by training, if not trade. So,
not trained professional.
I mean, if you don't know, librarians love to make the world a better place.
We've been doing it for years.
Really carrying water for the Enlightenment for about 4 centuries, I believe. Fundamentally, librarians are. I'm going to talk about librarians.
I'm talking about librarians.
All right.
We rehearsed this before.
We totally rehearsed this in the car on the way here.
Librarians have been organizing information so people can find it and use it for years. And when I've got double miking going on. When I meet with clients for the first time and I say, I'm here to design the content and the structure and the functionality of your website, and they're like, well, why is it you? And I explain to them I'm a librarian, and they're very excited to have a librarian working on their project. So the notion that we can organize information because there's so much of it so that it can be found and used is really sort of central to librarianship, and it's a very nice transition. How many of you guys are librarians? Yay, all my students. There's in the 30s, there was an Indian gentleman named Ranganathan, and he developed 5 laws of library science, and all 5 of them are escaping me immediately, but if you Google him, his name comes up as well as a Bollywood star, but he's the one who's obviously a librarian. And if you look at those 5 laws of library science, they transfer beautifully to information architecture. It's every book is reader, which is, anyway, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it, but there are these 5 laws, and it's just a beautiful transition between the 2 concepts. So I just refer to information architecture as a branch of 21st century librarianship.
Of course, we also have a really deep connection to the whole principle, practice of user-centered design. How many of you consider yourself user-centered designers? Right? Most of you. So I love, again, if I make this connection about why I think IA has always been about service and about making the world a better place. I love this quote from Donald Norman. He was here in LA speaking a couple days ago, and I got to tell him that his book actually ruined my life. Because before that, it had never occurred to me that all the stuff that frustrated me was actually designed by somebody. Yeah, I think he's ruined a lot of lives that way. So, and then, but if we want to talk about information architecture as a term, Lynn and I, from the very beginning, have found a lot of inspiration from the first definition, coming from architecture, as Lynn calls it, classical architecture.
Meat space architecture.
Meat space architecture. So Richard Saul Wurman, who made up the term and later went on to found the TED conferences, if you don't know, I think this is a good way. This is always sort of the call to action for me. The problem is he saw it, and he started seeing this and understanding this in the 70s, that we're faced with a tsunami of data. Right? This is now, we call that big data. Now we have a cute little name for how there's this problem of a tsunami of data. And to him, so this was the problem, and what were we going to do about it? And the answer to him was that we needed information architects. And he gave a 3-part definition of information architecture, and only the 3rd one fit on the slide. So, so C, you could look up A and B if you wanted.
Look up A and B.
Yeah. The emerging 21st century professional occupation addressing the needs of the age focused upon clarity, human understanding, and the science of the organization of information.
You could have put librarians.
That needs to be read like you're storming
like
the Bastille, right? It's a manifesto. And then there's us. So again, since we agreed to MC, we're gonna do a Lynn and Chris centric conversation. Lynn and I, from the beginning, when we first started collaborating together as information architects and user-centered designers, always figured that our design process was not just about the work that we were doing for clients, not just that we could take those same approaches and processes to any problem that we happened to be facing. So, one of our early problems was there were no IAs in LA, so our solution was to set about making some. And I guess a couple of Lynn's students already raised their hands. So we started teaching at the library school in UCLA. And, we've done a pretty fair job of making a lot of...
over the years, we probably minted about 100
as we approached that design problem, one of the things we really wanted to do was to be able to also demonstrate the value of IA and UX. So the students in the classes we taught worked for projects that real live projects with real live clients on the campus.
And that actually had a dual purpose. It generated a lot of interest in the profession. It got jobs for our students. We actually did good work. We only worked for nonprofits or .edu clients, also nonprofits. So they got an improvement of their services and their offering, and our students had hands-on materials that they had developed, and they came out of the class with a portfolio, references, and a project. So we were just using IA as the vehicle for these professional these professional skills.
So another part of our design solution, which sometimes Lynn and I refer to as the long con, if you guys want to know. Lynn
It's a
and I
big
are doing
Ponzi scheme,
running a
really.
long con on you guys. Build a UX community. Now we have to have a UX community in Los Angeles, and Lynn and I schemed the LA UX on the way back from the IA Summit in Las Vegas, and I believe I remember saying to you, I'm really, really sick of hearing about how great the community is in San Francisco and New York. I just can't stand it another minute. So we started LA UX.
Community envy.
Basic community envy, exactly. Just out of a wounded sense of pride. We also approached that to how would you design a conference event that would not bore us to tears. That was sort of like, it's great to go to a conference and look at somebody up on stage and have them present to you great stuff that
My
they did.
IA is the one true IA.
Yeah. And that's cool and everything, but we felt like we wanted to do something a little bit different, and so we designed a conference event called the IA Slam. Here we are in whenever this
Full
is.
pirate drag. That's 2008 Miami.
2008 Miami, where we role play clients and we break the teams up, the participants up into groups, and they get to brainstorm and pitch back the idea. So this is a direct connection to what...
He left out the part where we give you an impossible problem to solve. You have 45 minutes to create the self-updating interface to a time machine, for instance.
The time machine one, internet fridge. We started off with solvable problems, but had to keep topping ourselves. So, and in fact, we've actually, again, this is something that we also approach even in our personal lives. Last year's presentation that Lynn and I did was titled, some of you saw it, Other People's Problems, and about forming a peer network as a way to sort of bootstrap yourself into your career, into your goals, into your life. We've actually formed a very significant and strong circle of practitioners and friends, and many of you are here today, and God bless you. We talk when asked about using your user-centered principles, not just for the client, again, not just for the audience that your client is trying to serve, but actually thinking about the client themselves. So, for example, I often advocate creating a persona for your client, if you understand what I mean there.
And I tell my students when they're writing cover letters and resumes to think about who the users of those are, right? The user of your cover letter is the HR person who has to see if you fit the job description and make it past the first screen, and the hiring manager, right, who needs to know if you're a good fit. So when you put together your resume and your cover letter, if you think about the personas of those people and what their pain points are and what their information needs are, it helps you with a more effective job application.
For me personally, I have a 15-year-old autistic son, a surly teenage autistic son, and so we've over the years worked out many different ways to take a user-centered design approach to his education. What are all the stakeholders at the school interested in? What are they trying to accomplish? What are we trying to accomplish? How can we harmonize between those two? But I have to admit that if of the two of us, I am on the everything will work out in the end just fine. It's the journey that matters. And Lynn, I will say, has applied this in a more rigorous and methodical fashion. So I want to show you this spreadsheet.
So this is a method that I've used a couple of times to make a decision between a variety of choices. We used it for choosing a high school for my daughter. We used it to choose a house to buy. So I'm going to walk you through it super quick. It's based on a thing called a featured value analysis, a weighted feature value analysis developed by Adam Polanski. And you can read more about it on Boxes and Arrows. So the first step is to thinking about the house problem. You identify all the attributes of a house, right? So we have, and I'm not going to run through all of them, but commute distance to work, commute distance to school. Does it have a yard? Are there fruit trees in the yard? It needs 2 bathrooms, right? Crime in the neighborhood, appliances, friends in the neighborhood, walking distance to things, monthly cost, everything you can think of. Everybody who's involved in the decision comes up with these attributes, right? Once all the attributes have been defined, then each person involved in the decision weights them on a 0, 1, 2 scale. Epic, meh, fail, right? 0, 1, 2 really forces you to be tactical about your decision. Does this meet the requirements? Is it so-so? it ain't working for me. So everybody gets a voice, everybody weights each attribute 0, 1, 2. That's how important this attribute is to me personally, right? Then you look at the different options. So each person scores each option on each of these attributes, again, using a 0, 1, 2 scale, right? So you see our scores. These are my weights. These are my daughter's weights. These are my son's weights. This is the total weight for each attribute. Then these are my scores for the condo, my daughter's scores for the condo, my son's scores for the condo. We total those up. And then we looked at the houses, right? And then you multiply each attribute's score times that weight, and what you end up with is orange numbers that you can't really see very well, but very clear differences. The condo came out 274, the house came out 185. The things that are more important to you are weighted more highly so that the scores, you get more range on the scores. So the differences come out really, really clear. You can use it to prioritize things, right? If you have a bunch of features you want to put on your site and you aren't sure which one you should do first, right? How important is it to the business? How important is it to the revenue stream? How important is it to the brand? All those different things. You can use it to come up with an order in which you should address these. How difficult is it to implement? All of these things. And the nice thing about it is it's participatory. Everybody gets a voice. When we use this method to choose a high school for my daughter, the decision actually came down against her wishes. We ended up choosing a school that wasn't the one that she wanted to go to. But she was at peace with the decision because she'd been heard. She understood that we weren't just saying, oh, that's too expensive. Bam, you can't do it, right? So it's good for consensus building. It's a little weird, but it's a lovely way to do quantitative decisions in a qualitative arena.
And
so,
I know many of you are thinking about how to use this at work. Lynn is one of the few people I've ever known who would think about how to use this in her day-to-day life with her family.
We're going to do it to choose a college in a couple of months.
Exactly. And I'm going to stop you now before you go on to the sub-tabs.
I'm not doing sub-tabs.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all for our introduction. We've got a great day planned. I'm not sure.
We have some wonderful speakers who are going to present you guys with a bunch of problems. And we're going to divide you into teams. I believe you've gotten your team indicators. And it looks like the San Diego bus is here. Hello, San Diego.
Woo! San Diego in the house. Sorry, that was loud.
You're mic'd, dude.
I am mic'd, I know. I warned you guys back there.
And our speakers are going to make presentations about their particular aspects of their larger problems in Los Angeles, and then we're going to bring your expertise and your tools and your willingness to work on these problems to bear, and then you guys are going to present solutions locally, I think, and I believe that Laura is going to take over from here and bring our next speakers on, right?
Like a Saturday Night Live skit, we don't know how to end this. So